start the process going. I went on a national speaking tour in Australia. This was a country that I dreamt about going to in my life, that I dreamt about living there. And I was angered because they now have 70% divorce rate and the third highest teen suicide problem in the entire world. And I sat down and I wrote a letter to all the world's leaders. My name is Jim Tooman, and I've spoken to more than 1 million children worldwide. I'm not a politician or a business. I'm just a highly concerned individual who's seen pain in children, and children in pain are hard to teach. I want to meet with you to discuss this. 1 out of every 10 children will attempt suicide. 16,000 have succeeded here in the United States this year. This is not a problem limited to children in the United States. Every country in the world is receiving more and more serious problems of self-esteem among their young adults. Problems that reflect in drugs, alcohol, suicide, crime, and terrorism. Our children do not want to be part of our world. Whatever you do as a leader of your country can be negated by the next generation if these children are not taught to believe enough in themselves to keep their countries alive and productive. The only solution to this escalating problem is the education of our children within their schools to deal with their feelings, share their concerns, value themselves, and get help with their problems. During the school year, I will speak to 150,000 school children in the United States, teaching them to recognize their values so that they can lead productive adult lives. In the course of my talk, students stand tall of their pain and problems. They also learn to express their positive feelings about themselves. Out of the revealing of their real feelings, incredibly shocking statistics have shown up. Sometimes as many as 3/4 of the children admit to considering suicide and drugs as possible solutions to their feelings of loneliness and despair. I'm concerned and ready to commit my time and energy to turn these frightening statistics around. I'm willing to travel across the world for 1 hour of your time to show you what you can do in your country so that we can enter the year 2000 with healthy children inside and outside. Please give me an opportunity. I know you personally know some child who is in desperate trouble. You could turn away from this letter, but you cannot turn away from the problem. Please let me know when I may come to speak with you or some of your administration. Please accept this tape as my gift that reflects the hope of what's possible. Now, I didn't even have addresses. I wrote official residence in the capital city. I never thought anybody would answer me, much less invite me. And I've gotten invitations now from 12 more leaders. And to me, what this says is... I saw Saint...
Person you know? Who's the most important 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 person you know? Why was that so difficult for some of you in the room to say that you were the most important person that you knew? Every one of you in this room can influence thousands of people in your life. What, though, are you going to be able to give them if you don't feel good enough about yourself to give them something? I was coming back from Chicago after being on the road 5 straight days working at this level of intensity to groups of 1,000 or more. And I just wanted some peace and quiet. I just wanted to be alone. And I found this restaurant right off the Kalamazoo exit, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, completely empty. All the lunchtime crowd had gone. And I grabbed a newspaper and literally wanted to tune out the world. Walked all the way down to the last seat at the counter and sat there reading the newspaper. And I looked out of the corner of my eye, and a guy walked in. All the seats at the counter were empty. He could have picked anyone. Instead, he walks all the way down, sits down right next to me, and starts talking. And I got real uncomfortable. I thought, what does this guy want? What could he possibly want from me? And I kept on reading the newspaper, and he kept on talking. And you know, sometimes how a word or a phrase or a gesture catches you? That's what happened with this guy. Turned out he was 36 years old. He had built a small business in Northern California, computer business, into a multi-million-dollar business. 4 weeks before he met me, he had walked into his doctor's office for a routine annual company physical. Doctor called him up 3 days later, told this guy he had leukemia, less than 6 months to live. This guy was just blown away. He had all the stuff, all the toys he could possibly want. He had a beautiful home on the side of the mountain in Carmel, California, overlooking the Pacific. He had the cars, the boats, everything he could possibly want. Now he didn't have the time to be able to enjoy any of these things. And I was so moved and so touched by this guy at the courageous decision that he decided to do, then I found that I was feeling close to him. He decided what he was going to do was he was going to sell everything in the world that he owned, everything. And he was going to take off around the country in the remaining time he had left. And he was just going to see the things he dreamt about seeing, not being able to do that, working 16, 18-hour days, and talking to people like me that he never got a chance to talk to. And as I said, I was so moved, so touched by this guy, that I asked him, wound up at the end of the lunch, getting up and giving this guy a hug, wishing him good luck, knowing that I would never, ever see this guy again as long as I lived. Actually walked out to my car, sat behind the steering wheel, and found myself crying. In 1 hour's time, this guy influenced me more than people who have been in my life for 30 years. Every one of you in this room has that possibility. What, though, are you going to be able to give them if you don't feel good enough about yourselves to give them something? The unfortunate thing, and you'll look at it, somebody who's truly guilty of this, is that we are all so busy allowing other people to dictate how we should feel about ourselves that we can't see our own value. Let me show you something. What's your first name? Jackie. Jackie, let's assume, Jackie, that everyone in this entire school, that we all got together and decided that you were absolutely the ugliest person that we had ever seen. So incredibly ugly, Jackie, that wherever you went, people walked behind you and said, wow, there goes Jackie, she is so ugly. And no matter where you went, people kept on whispering. And even when you went home, your parents locked you in the bedroom for 2 hours because you're so incredibly ugly. I'm watching you pull back, Jackie, get real uncomfortable, get real red-faced. Tell me the truth. How do you feel about people telling you you're ugly? Bad. Actually, everyone in the room, I picked on Jackie because Jackie's really attractive. Jackie's the complete opposite side. Let's assume we all got together and say, wow, Jackie's a great friend. She's always there when I need her. She always seems to care. She always understands. How do you feel about people telling you you're great? Good. What have we done, everyone in the room? What have we done to Jackie in the span of 30 seconds? We've taken her from feeling bad about herself or ugly about herself to good about herself just because all of you guys have decided that's how she should feel. And you buy into it. You allow it to happen. Every time I tell this next story, and it doesn't matter how often, this is my third school in 3 days in this district, doesn't matter how often I tell it, when I'm thinking about it, I just go through some personal pain. And then when I'm preparing for this program in my head, this story keeps going back and forth. I got to Michigan 12 or 13 years ago. And my family's been divorced since I was 14 years old. And most of my family is on the East Coast. And my mother lives in Southern California. So I've never known what it's like to have a family. And I met this family locally here. They had 5 children, age range 19 to 14. And they became the family I always wanted, that I always needed. And I would find any excuse to go over their house. Holidays, special occasions, anything. I really felt like this was my family. And there was always a key left underneath the mat. There was always a place there for me for dinner. About 5 years ago, I noticed something happening in that family, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Every time I go over their house, they were always putting down their 14-year-old son. Why can't you be more like your brother and sister? Why can't you get better grades? Why can't you be on time? All these string of whys. And at first this boy would pull back, get real uncomfortable. Sometimes he'd just get angry, say, leave me alone. Sometimes he would just get up and leave. 4 years ago next month, mother and father came back from a party about 1 o'clock in the morning. They walked through the front door. Bathroom door was locked. They broke down the bathroom door. This 14-year-old boy hung himself in the shower, and there's a big note we can't see our own value. Let me show you something. If you can wake up on Christmas morning with any car in the world in your driveway that you always wanted, what kind of car would you want? A BMW, okay. What color would you want the BMW? Black. If you could wake up on Christmas morning with any car in the world that you always wanted, what kind of car would you want? Mercedes-Benz? What color would you want the Mercedes-Benz? Black, okay? If you could wake up on Christmas morning, any car in the world sitting in your driveway, what kind of car would you want? 63 Corvette? Tell me what color you want the 63 Corvette. White. Let's create the ultimate for the three of you guys, okay? Let's create the ultimate. Let's assume that the three of you guys, that you really can drive and you really own these cars. And they are, in your mind, the best thing in the world you've ever had. Ever had. And you've taken a lot of extra pride in the last couple of weeks. You've winterized the cars, you've polished them up. And you've driven the cars here to school this morning. And when I'm through speaking, or at the end of the day, you've got the keys in your pocket. And you're going to pick somebody in the school that you really care about, and you love these cars. They're the best thing in the world you own. Okay? And all three of the cars are sitting right next to each other in the parking lot. Now let's take it one step further, guys. Let's assume I'm driving through this parking lot with this enormous crane with a wrecking ball on the crane. And I get to your BMW, probably 75,000 these days, and I take the wrecking ball and I swing it back and go wham! Rip off the entire front end of that car, just pull it off. Drop it one time on the top of that car so that the parts are all over the parking lot. All over the parking lot. Move over your Mercedes-Benz, probably close to that these days. Close to 75,000. Take the wrecking boy, just rip off the side doors, just pull them off. Drop it one time on the top of that car so the parts are all over the lot. Move over your 63 Beta Classic, probably escalating in value, 25,000, 30,000. Take the wrecking ball and I swing it back. I go wham, 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 like a riveter. So if there's a back seat to that car, it is now the front seat of the car. There is no insurance on these cars, guys. None whatsoever. You got 41 months of payments left. For at least two of you, easily $1,000 a month, maybe more. Maybe more. You guys are glaring at each other and certainly glaring back at me, looking around at all the parts all over the lot. I'm going to get into my car. And as I pass the three of you guys pulling out of the parking lot, I'm going to smile and wave to you guys pulling out of that parking lot. Assuming no one was going to come down on you for anything. No right or wrong, no moral issues, no judgment. 100% clean slate, even with your conscience in your head. 100% wipeout. What would you want to do to me physically before I got out of that parking lot? Kill me. How would you want to kill me? How? Give me a for instance. With a baseball bat, okay. No one's going to come down on you for anything. No right or wrong, no moral issues, no judgment, clean slate for you also. What would you want to do to me physically before I got out of that lot? First you beat the crap out of me, go ahead. Then you torture me. How would you want to torture me? What would you want to do? You want to cut me up and put salt on me? To think I heard it What would you want to do to me physically? No right or wrong, nothing. Hook me onto the wrecking crane and take me around a little bit. Okay. I want the three of you guys and everybody else in the room, I want you guys to stop and think about this one. Guys, if these cars were the only reason you had friends, if these cars were the only reason that people liked you for, if these cars were the only image that everybody else in the world saw you through, you know what I've actually done to the three of you guys? You're history. You are no more. So if you don't feel good from the inside, everyone, if you need the stuff in your lives to make you feel good about yourselves, someone at some point in your lives can take it all away. It's just that simple, by the way. Just that simple. This concept, by the way, was never driven home clearer to me than 10 years ago next month when I got a chance to work in the earthquake areas outside of Naples, Italy. Now, most of you in the room, you've been following the earthquakes in the last few years in Southern California. And I was up in San Francisco speaking when the earthquake hit up there 3 years ago. So I knew what it felt like, and I saw the devastation. But I have to tell you, nothing could have prepared me for what I saw outside of Naples, Italy 10 years ago. Everything that people owned for 100 square miles was gone in 38 seconds. Lives, houses, property, cars, gone in 38 seconds. Imagine all of you in the room, you left your house this morning and for whatever reason, you decided to look back. Maybe there was something on the dining room table that you forgot. Maybe something in the driveway caught your eye. Imagine coming back tonight when nothing that you have when you left this morning is still standing. And now you know what these people felt like. And I used to go in and do community organizing. I would work with groups of 6 or 8 people, and I would ask them the same questions. Why would you want to take a chance and rebuild this village? You're right on an earthquake fault line. This can happen again in 10 days, 10 months, 10 years, but it will happen again. You know, I got the same answers for people, different words, same answers. My friends live here. My family lives down the road. I love living in this village. And I read between the lines what these people were really saying to me is, my friends and family come first in my life, and the things that I own second. Now most of you in the room are saying, this guy's crazy. I'm going to go and get all the stuff I want now, and then I'll deal with the priority of my life of people first and things second. So let me ask all of you in the room a question. If you can answer this question, I am willing to buy you dinner any place of your choice. Any place of your choice. How do you know? How do you know that you don't only have 6 months to live? How do you know that you only have 6 months to live? I was speaking at a junior high school out in California last spring. A 13-year-old girl that was supposed to have been at that assembly was killed the night before coming back from a basketball game in the fog. I spoke out at Romulus High School. Captain of the football team walked into school one day. 2 friends were fighting with another guy. He went to break up that fight. Somebody put a knife into his gut and he died on the way to the hospital. I am sure those 2 people did not get up that morning and say, this is the last day of the rest of my life. I'm sure those 2 people did not get up that morning and say, this is the last day of the rest of my life. There are no guarantees. No guarantees. Raise your hand if you've been to a funeral in the last year. Now I want you to stop and think about this one. Raise your hand again if you went to that funeral in the last year of somebody who you thought died too young or died before their time. It's devastating for all of us in this room, myself included. You see, all of us, we magically believe that when we tell a friend, I'll see you back at school, I'll talk to you on the phone tonight, I'll meet you later, that we actually expect that that person is going to be there in our lives. And when someone in our life breaks the chain, every one of us in this room, we all realize we're only on borrowed time. So if you guys are waiting for the time in your life to put the priority of friends and family first, maybe, just maybe, you won't have that time. And as I said before, we're all so busy allowing other people to tell us whether we're important or not that we can't see our own value. Let me show you something. Does anybody here have a dollar bill? Anybody here have a dollar bill? Can you stand up for a second for me, please? Can you hold it up? Can you tear that in half for me, please? Please. Thank you very much. That are truly, truly fulfilled and happy in their lives. Truly fulfilled and happy. Best guess. No one. How many people in your life do you know? Hundreds? Best guess. How many people in your life do you know that are truly fulfilled and happy? Must be a couple. 2 or 3, and in your life, how many do you know? Hundreds? Okay? How many people in your life do you know that are truly fulfilled and happy in their lives? 10, and in your life, how many people do you know? Hundreds? Okay. Everyone in the room, listen to those odds. Listen to those odds. We've asked 3 people collectively how many they know that are truly fulfilled and happy in their lives, as opposed to how many people that they know. We got a grand total of 12. Want to know what that means for all of you in this room based on those odds? There's probably 700 or 800 of you. Maybe 5 of you in this entire room are going to be truly fulfilled and happy in their lives. Is it going to be you? 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 Is it going to be you or you? Who knows? And who knows how much time you guys have got to deal with this? That's what we're talking about today. No guarantees. No guarantees. Raise your hand in the room if you come from a divorced family. By the way, my hand also has to go up. Now, raise your hand individually, any of you, and tell me, why do you think there's so many divorces in this country today? We lead the world in divorce. Anybody? Why do you think? All the way in the back. Yes, wait. I'll take you first. Get ready. Money issues. Yes. Can you stand up and help me out? I was like, yes. You guys, can you do me a favor? Just cut me a little slack on this because I've been speaking. This is This is 3 schools in 3 days, and my voice is going to go. Go ahead. They get married what? They get married too young. Great, thank you. Excellent, yes. They're not happy. Anybody else? Yes. Wait. They get married for the wrong reasons. Yes, go ahead. They don't get along. Okay, on this side. Yes. Why do you think? Affairs. Hold on, guys. Anybody else? All the way in the back. Can you shout it out? Alcohol abuse. Great. Good answer. Anyone else? All the way in the back. Yes. They get married what? Yeah, money issues. Yes. What is it? What is it? No more love. Great point. All the way in the back. Last one. Yes. What is it? Drug abuse. Right. Those are all real good answers, but I have a question for all of you. I have a question for all of you. You think people really know each other before they get married? What's the first thing all of us in the room do when we meet somebody? We try to impress them. We try to tell them the best of who we are. People fall in love on the basis of that impression. They get married on the basis of that impression. And then they wake up one day and a completely different person has emerged. Somebody who they don't even know. I have a real good friend of mine in Detroit who's a divorce court judge. He said the biggest reason that people have for being in his courtroom is that the other person changed. The other person didn't change. The other person was in there in the first place. We're too busy wearing the mask. Too busy wearing the mask. Tom, excuse me. Can I have that introduction sheet, please? That was read at the beginning of this talk. It's not me, gang. It's not me. It's the things I did in my life, not the person who I am. Person who I am was in one of the offices, pacing back and forth, trying to get the courage to come out in front of all of you. And this is my 3rd school in 3 days, and my 10th or 11th school in the last couple of weeks. You see, I changed schools 5 times between grade school and high school. And it left me with so many fears and so many insecurities that it's absolutely difficult for me to get out in front of a room full of people. It's even more difficult for me to meet you one-to-one. If you had a party in this gym and I didn't know any of you, chances are I'd walk through the doors, hope that one of you in the room would just say hello or say something to me. If that didn't happen, chances are I'd look around at some of the pennants on the walls. If there was some food, I'd go get some food. If still no one came over and talked to me, I would leave. And I've done this dozens of times because it's too difficult for me to walk up to somebody and say, "Hi, my name is Jim," or say hello to somebody. I was coming back from a national speaking tour in Australia, and the plane was packed. Big 747. And there were people on both sides of me. And I sat in that center section next to 2 people reading the same book, the same magazines, the same newspapers for the first leg of the flight between Sydney and Honolulu, 10.5 hours, hoping that either person would just open up and start a conversation. When that didn't happen, I just sat there with my eyes in the newspaper because it was too difficult for me to open up. I was the 7-letter athlete in high school. I was president of my class 4 years running. I carried an A- average, and I tried to kill myself 3 times. 3 times I tried to kill myself because I was living off the image. I was so afraid if something happened on that football field, when the smoke cleared for me, there would be no one there. No one there. Many of you in this room are living off those same images. Many of you in this room are living behind those same masks. Raise your hand in the room if you have a best friend. Thank you. Now, raise your hand individually. And again, you guys got to cut me some slack and my voice is starting to go. Raise your hand individually and tell me, what makes that person a best friend to you? Anybody? Yes. You can trust? Yes. Tell her anything? Wonderful? Yes. They accept you and understand you? Yes. They care for you? Yes. Talk to them when you need them? Yes. They really care. Anybody else? All the way in the back? Yes. Money issues. I have some friends that you lose with it. What is it? Oh, they're funny. Oh, I have some friends that lend me money. That's what I thought you meant as a best friend. Funny. Yeah, probably the key to everything. Yes. Always there. Yes. Get along. Yes. Somebody here. Anybody else? What makes that person a best friend? Trust issues. So important. Yes. Always there. Yes. They know you're false. Last one. Yes. So much alike. Powerful statement. Why didn't the half dozen or so of you that just spoke, why didn't you mention the grades that person had, sports they played, cars that they had, money that they did or didn't have? Anybody? Anyone? Doesn't matter? Not important? Why do we believe so much that it is important? Let me show you something else that's not important. If you were killed tonight on the way home in an automobile accident, and we were having a memorial service in this gym for you, do you want people to only remember you for the BMW? Only? How do you want people to remember you? As a friend? Great. Good comment. If you were killed tonight on the way home in an automobile accident, we were having a memorial service in this gym for you. Want people to only remember you for the Mercedes-Benz? How do you want people to remember you? Good friend, and what else? Funny and someone who's there. If you were killed tonight on the way home in an automobile accident, we were having a memorial service in this gym for you. Want people to remember you for the Corvette? How do you want people to remember you? For who you were? Isn't it interesting, everyone in the room? Isn't it interesting? Not more than 10 minutes ago, these three guys were prepared to kill me with a baseball bat. They were prepared to carve me up and put salt in me. They were prepared to drag me with a crane over 3 cars that they don't want to be remembered for. Isn't it interesting that they were prepared to kill me violently over 3 cars that they don't want to be remembered for? We complicate our lives. It is so simple. So simple. Stop, all of you in the room. If you walk out of here this morning with nothing else but this, stop for 5 seconds and ask yourselves, how do I want the people in my life who I love and who love me to remember me? And then put it up at the top of the list in your life and live it out. How do I want the people in my life who I love and who love me to remember me? If some of you in this room want to be remembered as a great friend, put that one up at the top of the list in your life and live it out. If some of you in this room want to be remembered as a person who was there when people needed you, put that one up at the top of the list in your life and live it out. If some of you in this room want to be remembered as just a person who cared, put that one up at the top of the list in your life and live it out. That's not to say don't go after a lot of money. That's not to say don't get the best job possible. That's not to say don't have a ton of friends. I'm simply saying to all of you in this room, stop for 5 seconds and ask yourselves, how do I want the people in my life who I love and who love me to remember me? And hope against hope, some of you guys have got the time to live that one out. Again, no guarantees. No guarantees. I grew up in a macho family. Ever since I was probably 7 or 8 years old, I was always told it was weak, it was wrong, it was unmanly to share my feelings. And so consequently, never once growing up did I ever tell my mother or my father or my brother, never once, that I loved them. And they were very effective, my family. They knew exactly how to shut me down. Every time I go to open up, they would always say, hey, I can't be bothered now. Don't talk to me. I can't deal with this. Go back to your room. Don't ever let me see you cry. And so I kept pushing my feelings down further and further and further until there was no more room. About 4 years ago, I had the biggest turn that's ever happened in my whole life. I was speaking at a school in Dearborn, and somebody pulled me off to the side and said, hey, Jim, you got big problems. Sounds real serious. Better take care of them. Turned out my father had a series of heart attacks, 3 in succession. You know, I can tell all of you in this room, I don't even remember finishing that program. But I do remember getting on a plane, flying to New York City where he lived, walking into a hospital room and seeing my father lay down in a coma. Intravenous bottles coming out, tubes sticking out all over. And the first thing I did was I walked over to his bedside and I grabbed his hands. I grabbed his hands. And I wanted at that moment to tell this man I loved him. I wanted to tell him he was special. I wanted to tell him he made a difference in my life. And I couldn't do it. All the old tapes kept playing in my head. It's not safe. Don't say it. He's going to hurt you in some way. He's going to put you down. His life was hanging by a thread, and I still couldn't find the words to say it. I watched him move in and out of a coma, sometimes for a minute or two, sometimes a couple minutes more. And each time there was another opportunity. Each time I couldn't find the courage. So instead, what I said to him was, Dad, do you need anything? Do you want me to get a drink of water? Do you want me to get the nurse? But in my gut, I wanted to tell this man I loved him. 2 days, day and night, sitting at his bedside, the courage never came. The courage never came. My father survived the heart attacks. We just consider it to be the strength of the man. And you know, by coincidence, I had essentially a second chance a month later to do what I couldn't do the first time, which was to tell him that I loved him. I had a speaking engagement in New York City, and I called him up and I said, Dad, let's get together for dinner, you and I. Something really important I have to tell you. He gave me the perfect hour. He said, Jim, I got dinner plans. What about lunch? Well, I had a program to do. I had television commitments. I had meetings. I was flying in early that morning, flying back out that night, and I was going to see my father, who had just gotten out of the hospital, for a couple of minutes on the way back out to the airport. I rearranged everything for that day to get to that restaurant a half an hour early to tell him for the first time in my life that I loved him. And I sat in that restaurant doing all these mind games. What words were going to make him not hurt me? What words were going to make him not put me down? What words were going to make him not laugh at me? What words were going to make him not be silent, which was my father's most effective weapon, and would shut me down immediately. And I sat in that restaurant in a panic, not being able to find the courage. And finally I got up and I started pacing around walking around the block outside the restaurant, just trying to find that courage. And I lost complete track of time, looked over at one of the buildings, realized that I was 15 minutes late. And knowing my father, he would be sitting in that restaurant because he runs his whole life by his watch. And sure enough, I ran back in that restaurant, and there he was sitting, and the first thing he did was jam me. Put his finger in my face and said, "Why are you 15 minutes late?" He says, "You know I've only got an hour for lunch." He says, "When are you going to be on time?" I looked at this man, I said, "No way. No way. I can't be hurt anymore. No way." Except I looked back at him. He'd lost 50 pounds since the heart attacks. His face had virtually no color. If you've ever seen death in somebody's face, that's what I saw in his that day. And I knew there was no third chance on this one. And I grabbed his hands again, and I said, "Dad, thanks for waiting up till 2 o'clock in the morning when I didn't show up all night. Thanks for standing by me when I tore the cartilage in my knee and I couldn't finish the last 3 football games and a ton of guys came down on my back. Thanks for bailing me out, Dad. I really love you." And as I said, "I really love you," I put my head down. I was hoping this man wouldn't hear me. When I raised my head, it was the last reaction in the world I could have ever imagined. For the first time in my life, I never saw it at my grandfather's funeral. For the first time in my life, I watched my father cry. And all the stuff that was sitting inside me, I just let go. Just let go. And I reached across the table and I put my arms around him and I held him. I had waited my whole life for this moment. I can tell all of you in the room, especially the guys, that for me personally, this ranks at the top of the best moments I will ever have in my whole life. In my whole life. And I got together with my father the next morning for breakfast. And he told me something that just blew me out of the water. He said, "Jim, I would have gone to my grave and not been able to tell you I loved you. Because my father, my grandfather told him that it was wrong. He was just passing that one on to me. Just passing that one on to me." You know, the first time I ever told this story, a young girl was actually moved to get up out of her seat, to call her father, who was in Crittenden Hospital, to tell him for the first time in 10 years that she loved him. And her father, who had waited so long to hear her say that, said, "Come on over, I need to be with you today." She ran over 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, stayed till 10:30, 11 o'clock that night, her and her father just unloading all the things that had been sitting inside of them. And it was 2 hours past visiting time. And her father looked at her and said, "You've been here all day, you look tired. Go home. This is just the beginning for us." She said, "No, Dad, I want to be here with you. I've waited my whole life for this. This is the best day we've ever had. Please let me stay. I want to be here when you get up in the morning." He said, "This is just the beginning." He said, "You go home and get some rest. I'll see you first thing in the morning." She said, "Please, Dad." He said, "Make an old man happy and go home." He said, "I'll see you tomorrow." Reluctantly, she went home. At 7:30 the next morning, her father died on the operating table. And I got a call from her the first day of grief. The first day of grief of all things, to thank me. To thank me for giving her the courage to tell her father how much she cared. And the words were so powerful, I put them up on my bulletin board. Because I didn't want anybody to ever misunderstand what this is all about. And I wanted to remind myself every day. And when I left the house this morning to come out here, I glanced over the bulletin board so I could make sure that I remembered that. And the words that she told me, she said, "Dad," she said, "Jim, we had a lot of time together, my father and I, and yet we had no time together." I spoke at a high school in the Upper Peninsula. A young girl wasn't so lucky. She waited till after school to tell her father how much she cared. She raced home. There was an EMS truck in the driveway. Her father, who was 38 years old, had been cleaning out the garage and had dropped dead of a heart attack. 38 years old! And I got a call from her the first day of grief. And she said, Jim, I know you get a chance to talk to thousands of people in your life. Tell them not to wait. Tell them I waited a half an hour too long. There are many of you in this room that have friends and family in your lives, in this room, in this school. Never once have you told them that you care about them. Never once. Live with the reality, as I do, that there is no guarantee that the person that you care about is going to make it home tonight. None whatsoever. There's a sharing part of my program, and time doesn't permit it this morning. But to me, it's one of the most powerful parts. And I've seen it at Tecumseh High School, a young boy and brother and sister who were quadriplegic and paraplegic, both in wheelchairs from an automobile accident. The brother came up to the microphone and thanked his sister for giving him the courage to keep on going. And she was worse off than he was. And they wheeled her up to the mic, and they put their arms around each other, and everyone in the whole school got up on their feet and gave a standing ovation. They had never seen such courage. But I have to tell you, in all my years of speaking, probably the biggest act of courage, bar none, that I have ever seen in all my years was at a high school outside of Chicago. A young girl who was just beautiful, had been leaving school for 6 or 8 weeks before I got there. No one knew why. Everybody speculated. All kinds of rumors going on around the school. But she got up in front of the whole school and she said, I've been afraid to tell you guys why I'm leaving. She said, now I'm more afraid of the reason why I'm leaving than I am of any of you. She said, I'm 16 years old and I found out I've got cancer. She said, I'm afraid. I've got my whole life ahead of me. I don't want to live. She said, I've been taking chemotherapy treatments that's left me too sick to come back to school. She said, I thought I could go it alone. She said, now I realize how much I need all of you in this room. She said, like the first boy, I'm scared. Please be there for me. I need friends. I can't go it by myself. I want to live. I need all of you. Please be there for me. Again, I'm scared. And when she got through speaking, she took off her wig and she was completely bald from the chemotherapy treatments. I had to get out of the way for 2 solid hours. 2 hours. While 900 students lined up to cry with her, to care about her, to tell her that they would not let her go it alone, to tell her that they would be there for her, to tell her that they would be her friend. 2 hours! I got a letter from her last Christmas, and God willing, as long as I'm on this earth, I hope I get a letter from her every Christmas. And in the letter it said, Jim, I don't know who's winning, the cancer or me, but my friends are helping me through. My friends are helping me through. All of you in this room, you have those people in your life. Let them know that they're special. Let them know that they're important. As in every program that I have done in the last 9 years, once a year I dedicate all year, an entire year's worth of programs to a different person each year who was in my life, who made a difference, and in this particular case this year, who saved my life. On March 19th, when I was 17 years old, I wanted out. I was screaming inside. Nobody could hear me. No one. I went home that night considering and planning how to take my life, and I got a call at 12 midnight from my best friend in the world, Ricky Myers, who said, "Jim, it's not worth it. Don't do it. I really care about you." That call saved my life. On the anniversary of that call every year, I find Ricky Myers wherever he is in the country, and I thank him. I thank him for being there for me. This year was no exception. He lives in Florida, and I called him. We tease, we joke, we laugh. We talk about families, and all of a sudden there was dead silence at the other end of that line. And he said, "Jim, I don't want you to hear this from my wife." He said, "But I've got colon cancer, and they've only given me a short time to live." And there was silence on my end, and all of a sudden I realized everything I'm trying to get you guys to see, I got to live out as well myself. So I told him, I said, "You've been closer to me than my own brother. Your call saved my life. You found the deepest part of my heart. And I love you for it. And I'll always love you." And he shared the same with me. Less than a month ago at 4 o'clock in the morning, I got a call that Ricky Myers had died. So I want to dedicate this program today to a man who was there when I needed him, and in this particular case, who saved my life. I have to add another name to that list, and unfortunately, this is so. About a week and a half ago, I got a call that a young boy who used to work with me was on the road with me for almost 3.5 years all over the country, whose story was so moving to me that I just asked him to be with me. His brother had been in an automobile accident on the way to Ann Arbor Hospital, University of Michigan Hospital. The brothers had never told each other how much they loved each other. And Sean raced out to be with his brother, and for the first time was able to find the courage to tell him how much he loved him. Well, the brother's still living in a wheelchair, but 2 weeks ago Sean passed away, 24 years old. So I want to also dedicate this program to Sean Daniel, who certainly touched a lot of lives, and mine in particular. There are many of you in this room that have those people in your life, been there when you needed them, saved your lives. Never once have you told them that you cared about them. Never once. You know, if this assembly had happened in my school, I'd be sitting where you are, laughing, putting it down, and wondering why I went home that night feeling alone and thinking about taking my own life. So if you've seen anybody around you that's been laughing at all or putting this down, realize that I finally figured out after over 1 million students in over 1,000 schools that these are the people in the most pain and they need the most support. So find your way over to them after the program and just let them know that you care about them, because usually their pain is higher. I have to tell you that for some of you, these words are going to last 5 minutes. Some of you never got them at all. For some of you, it'll be 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, and for the very few of you, you'll take this home with you and live it out the rest of your life. But I can't make any choices for any of you in this room. You see, I'm one man struggling to wonder why I spent so much of my life being alone. Keeping people away. Don't get too close. Maybe you'll find out that I'm afraid. Maybe you'll find out that I'm weak. Maybe you'll find out that I'm insecure. And maybe you'll leave me. And so I spent my whole life being afraid when the very thing that I wanted the most was to let people in. To let people in. I don't care whether you've been sitting through this whole program with your arms folded and your walls up as high as they can be. No one in this room wants to go it alone. But so many of us are too afraid. We've been hurt so often that we just keep people away, when the very thing that we want is to open up. To open up. I was speaking in Florida last spring, And as I was walking out of the school, a young boy put a piece of paper in my pocket and said, "Jim, when you get a chance, read this." I was going back to the hotel, I reached into my pocket, and I pulled out something else, and out fell this piece of paper on the floor, and I opened it up, and I started reading it. And I read it 2 and 3 and 4 more times before I got back to the hotel. And I realized it was everything in the world I wanted to say to all of you. It's a tribute to this boy's friend. It's called Friendly Pain. A good friend, yes, an exceptional friend. Someone to talk to, laugh with, confide in, and smile. What a great smile. Grade school, junior high school, the best times of your life. Most say, so far they're right. Lucky I was to have such a great friend. So many smiles and laughter. The plans we made, him to college, I stayed at home. When we can, we'll get together, drink some beer, laugh, smile, and offer honest advice. Now we can't, for he fell asleep behind the wheel. Oh, the pain, my stomach like a burning flame, it can't be true. We never said goodbye. The plans like sandcastles on the beach washed away. And oh, how I miss my buddy, on my mind like a good tune. I still think of the good times, I always will. The plans, well, they've fallen apart, and I've made new with new friends that smile and laugh. It's never the same. It never will be. The friendship we had was special, like ice cream on a hot summer day, and we never said goodbye. If then any of you in this room run across a boy by the name of Mike Sievers, go up and give him a hug and tell him that you heard a tribute that he gave to his friend, and know that he's living with lifetime pain. Lifetime pain. You have a choice in the school. You can remember this as 3 years of the toughest times you will ever have, or 4 years of at least decent times. And the difference is how you relate to one another. Do you slam each other down, or do you build each other up? I was speaking in Denver just a short while ago when a young girl came up to the mic, and she was just beautiful. And the entire left side of her face was scarred. She came up to the mic, and she said to everyone in the school, she said, "I used to think I was better than any of you. I had no choice, you guys, ran with the best crowd. Then I went through the windshield of my car. And it's been 5 operations. These are permanent scars on my face." She said, "Now all of a sudden I walk down the halls and you guys look away." She said, "For the first time I realized what it's like to be at the other end of those put downs." And I put my arm around her and silently in my head I said, "How tragic." And it took an automobile accident, 5 operations, permanent scars on her face, for her to realize that put downs can hurt and put downs can kill. If you cannot fill someone up in this school, walk away from them, but at least don't tear them down. Because what goes around comes around. If you don't buy it now, wait. There will come a time in your life when you will need someone so badly. And all the people that you've slammed to the ground in some way, no one will be there for you. No one. If you don't buy that now, just wait. Just wait. But I have to say again that this is just another choice for all of you. And I can't make that choice. I've spent my whole life feeling alone and in pain because I couldn't open up. I couldn't open up. Suicide is no longer an option for me. I spent half my life trying to open up, and I hope that I can, in the remaining time I have left, I hope I can put out as much as I can possibly be able to do for a whole lifetime. A few weeks ago, I got a letter from a girl that probably summed it up better than anything I've ever heard in any of my years of speaking. She said, Jim, I want to do something wonderful for you because you deserve so much, but I don't know what to do. I guess the best thing I can do is to tell you what's honestly on my mind. I feel guilty because I tried to kill myself. You're my friend, and I feel like I did something to defeat your purpose. Suicide is weak. I always thought that. I thought it while I was taking the pills. Now, I have never, ever heard it put more powerfully. At the moment, I didn't care. I wanted to disappear. I didn't realize that death and disappearance are not the same thing. I didn't realize that death and disappearance are not the same thing. I'd forgotten how great it feels to laugh so hard that you almost wet your pants, and looking at a sunset over the lake with wind in my hair, or to love something so much I feared my insides would bust. I forgot how to love myself, the only thing I have on this earth and will ever have. I was blind to the beauty of myself. I'm not anymore. I am beautiful. I have a lot to give. She took a major turn in her life. If any of you in this room are even remotely now considering taking your lives, find a friend like I did with Ricky Myers. Find a teacher. Find a counselor. Find a parent. And let them in. And let them care about you. Because there really is a difference between death and disappearance. Give somebody a chance to be there for you. I don't want any of you in this room to walk out the least bit unclear. We've mentioned it half a dozen times during this program, but I want all of you to know that this assembly has nothing to do with death. It has to do with time. The time that all of us in this room, we're not quite clear how much we have. It's the time to put the priority of friends and family first. The time to look around you in this school and to figure out how many people are hurting. To figure out how you can support them. You know you have a chance in this school. I can't say this next week when I go and speak at a school of 4,500 students. In that school, people barely even know each other, never ever know each other's names. Probably chances are go through that school 3 or 4 years virtually alone. You have a chance in this school. You have an incredible principal. I sat and spent a couple of hours with him this morning. This man genuinely cares about all of you. He sees you beyond the books. He sees you as real people with real issues and real struggles. You're blessed. I can't say that too often. I speak at almost 100 schools a year. You're blessed. But what's most important is all of you in this room is looking out for one another instead of destroying each other. Because every one of us in this room comes to school each day with their own pain, their own issues, their own problems. And instead of destroying one another, if we can figure out how to build each other up, you'd feel safe here. You'd feel like this was a place you knew you could always come to no matter what. And that's the key. But I can't make again those choices for you. I've lived my whole life like this. Don't get too close. You're going to hurt me. When I wanted to live like this, come walking through the door. You know, when I first opened up the door, there were actually people who were there standing on line to love me, and I never knew it. I never knew it. I thought that they would all leave. They would all leave. You guys have a chance. 99% of my audiences are always student audiences. You see, for many of the adults in this room, if you ask for every year we live, for some of us, there's like another brick that goes up on that wall. And after a while, the wall gets up so high, nobody gets through. You guys have a chance. You guys have a chance. 20 years ago, I got an opportunity to go on the road when the Beatles first made their national tour. I was a photographer. And I was in Chicago, and John Lennon had put a full-page ad in the Chicago Tribune asking to meet with 75 aspiring songwriters in the hope that the Beatles would find a new song, take it to the top of the charts, and make that person famous. In an auditorium on Northwestern University's campus, 75 people gathered, 5,000 had applied. And Lennon, who was probably the softest spoken man I've ever heard in my whole life, came out of the side curtain, and all these people were scattered in all these seats. And he said, barely above a whisper to everyone in the room, he said, I am no more talented than any of you. Nobody heard him. I nudged the guy next to me, and I looked around the room, and everybody was whispering. Everyone was whispering. And Lennon, who realized nobody had heard him, came up to the mic, and in the loudest voice possible, he said to everyone in the room, he said, I am no more talented than any of you. Sure enough, a guy in the back raised his hand. He said, hey, John, how can you tell us we're nobodies? The world's singing your music. You concerts are standing room only. You're making a ton of money. How can you tell us we're nobodies? He said, the only difference between myself and you is that if I've got a song inside, if I've got a dream in my gut, I can have somebody write it, somebody play it, somebody promote it, and hopefully somebody buy it. Every one of you in this room has something special to offer. But it doesn't mean anything if all the people in your life get together to tell you how great you are if you don't buy it inside. It's my hope that one of you, and I've had this hundreds of times, because I live in Royal Oak, my hope that one of you will see me walking down the street one day in a mall someplace, in an airport, come up and tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, Jim, I heard you speak 5, 10, 15 years ago. I want you to know I'm going after my dreams, feeling great about myself, and most of all, I'll give it to a whole lot of people in my life. And I'll walk away with a credible smile on my face. Every one of you in this room can make something happen in your lives. And none of you in this room, not one of you in this room, ever has to go it alone. Not one of you in this room. I really love you guys. Thank you so much today for touching my life. Voice is a little shocked. First of all, whose dollar did I take? I've been doing this a long time. And there's some scraps of the dollar on the floor. And I've got some more dollars in my pocket. For any of you in the room who wants it, we'll tear off a little part of the dollar. Long after you forget about me, you forget about this program, you forget about anything that was said here today. Take home a part of the dollar. And if you're in your room one night feeling alone and saying nothing's working for you, pull out a part of the dollar and remember people first and things second. And you guys will never be alone in your life. I'd like to ask something of all of you. Just for today, I'd like you to make sure that nobody has lunch by themselves. And just for today, when you're going home on the bus, look around you and see if anybody is sitting by themselves and sit with them. You have a chance in this school to build a family, or you have a chance to destroy each other. I'm going to leave my address with Tom. And For any of you who wants to sit down and write me or call me, I take one day out of every week. It doesn't matter how busy I am, no matter how busy the schedule is. I take one day a week and I sit down and I write or call back the people who've contacted me, who've taken the courage to reach out. For any of you in this room, you can go to Tom and get my address if you're just struggling with some things, if you're going through some personal pain. Just know that you can, extend out and that I'll get back to you in a week. I also want to encourage you tonight, we're having a parent program at Eisenhower High School for all 3 schools that I've done since Tuesday. Please, please come back with your parents. Please, the parent program is such a very important part of this. If you're struggling at home, if you're going through some difficulties, please come back and find your way back. I really love you guys, and I really think you can build a family here. You've got a real caring staff, and I think you can make it happen. I want to thank you again for touching my heart.
Jim is going to be here after the program. He will be here during the lunch hour, so if any of you want to talk to him, feel free to be there. Okay? The way we're going to go out, seeing we've got a lot of students in here, we're going to ask the classrooms at the back to go out either to the balcony
What grade are you guys? I didn't know what. No, I was going to say 9th. You guys going to Eisenhower also? Second. I bet you guys think you're getting out. Going to get out of there. It's like your fingertip, but it's still like real kids. Yeah. Well, Aunt Dante don't annoy you sometimes? They don't bother you? But you guys at the other end, you're like, are you at one end of the other school? Next, now you got it all together. Always will be all start all the time. Okay. So Eisenhower,
I'm gonna go get me.
it wasn't a lot of 9th graders with Eisenhower last year. So it was fair to us, right? So it won't be all brand new. That was you?
Recording.
Dude, you'd be like right there.
Like this.
You know what? I already tried it.
He was good. What's this?
Super, we went through one tape. We were down like 1.5 tapes. I'm taping. All of a sudden, it said end. I'm saying, what is it? I looked at the battery. I looked. So I just ran back classroom, ran back, got a new tape, put it on. That's good. That's fine, so much closer. It was hard to get closer from this high up, but I was there. I could get from about 0 up.
Again.
What?
I got a lot of them.
You're really close up on him, man. Check right there in the middle.
Of course, I did it. I'm a good taper. I think we could both take that career. What? Yeah, that's what I thought. You just give us one more try. I never heard you let us try one more. Watch, I'll take the last part of this. From 4-2 on, it's me. Yeah. You watch. Deep? Yeah. As soon as you say, things start happening. Where's my spotter? You're not a cameraman. getting the hug shot. I'm getting the hug shot. You gotta figure it out. I hope. I'm really gonna miss my mom's proud of me. Because I got this program. Down. I'm in the garden. I'm looking at a window.
Yes, good.